Benjamin's Assets Income.
Welcome to Emma Knows Money. I am your host, Emma Folks. And today's show is something near and dear to my heart because of what happened during the pandemic. But today we're going to be looking at retirement, and we're going to be dispelling myths of one of the assets that we have, one of the largest assets that we have that we don't tap into, and it's our homes. Yeah, the house that you live in, the four walls, if you have a mortgage on it or paid the mortgage off, that's the asset I'm talking about. Now, this topic is important to you. And if it's not to you, if you think, hey, I'll be okay in retirement, it may be about your parents, or you may need to be listening because of your elder loved ones. They may not have the liquid assets that they need, and they know they can't live with you. Some of them don't want to live with you. Okay. So what other tactics can we deploy to keep their dignity, make sure that they maintain their dignity, they can possibly stay in their home or utilize those dollars when they need it during retirement? So in the past, reverse mortgages didn't have a good name, right? They were kind of poo-pooey. They were smelly. They weren't explained properly to people. And the families, once the elder loved ones passed away, the families felt like they got the raw end of the deal, or they got screwed. Now, I want you to think back, if you're old enough, I want you to remember the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, people were buying homes bigger than they should have because they were interest-only loans, right? And some of them even had variable arms. And people didn't really understand how they worked. But even if they did, by the time it came time to pay the piper, we were in another economic calamity. All right. Now, the devil is always going to be in the details. It's the contracts. The contracts. People have to understand. You have to read the contracts. Now, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I'm going to tell you, this is the first year that I am saying reverse mortgage out loud and to other people. Now, reverse mortgages are relatively new when it comes to solutions for retirement planning. But I want you to think about it the way we think about cars. Are cars bad? Cars are okay, depends on the car that you have. But what if you had a car from back in the day called a Yugo or a Gremlin, right? I think it was even the Pinto. Those cars used to blow up. But we don't poo-poo all cars. We just poo-poo those cars. We don't like those cars. Well, it's going to be the same thing with reverse mortgages. Some of them are going to be god-awful, and some of them are actually going to help provide a lifeline for some people's retirement. Now, I want you to think about this. In the last 20 years, this is our third economic calamity. Okay. So for many Americans, for many people from the United States of America, their retirement plans have been derailed. As far as Social Security is concerned, we need to all remember Social Security was not designed to replace our income. It was designed to supplement a pension. Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, people had pensions when they left the job. But today, a lot of us don't have pensions. A lot of us have to rely on our own 401ks or 403bs or whatever the employer retirement accounts are, your own IRAs, things like that. Well, the significant issue is that today, many retirees have most of the assets in their net worth, it's in their home. And a lot of these people are living Social Security check to Social Security check. There is no room for any mistakes. There is no room for the price of their medications to go up. There is no room to get sick with COVID. It's a calamity. The issue is in the United States of America today, there is $7.2 trillion in home equity for U.S. residents that are age 62 and over. Now, back in the day, retirees and all of us here in the U.S. were taught that you need to save $1 million by the time you retire. And then there was an old school rule of thumb that, hey, you can live off of the interest, 4% rule of thumb. You can live off that interest for the rest of your life. Well, that rule of thumb is really, really old. And today, when we adjust it for inflation, that 4% rule of thumb is more like 3.2. And it's way outdated. But when we come back, I'm going to show you how that $1 million and that 4% rule holds up with taxes and inflation when we come back on Emma Knows Money. Hey, we're back with Emma Knows Money. Before the break, we looked at reverse mortgages and some of the horrors that were associated with it. We also wanted to take a look at rules of thumb and how that worked into your retirement. So what we're going to do is take a hypothetical look at an example. All right. Let's go ahead and look at us using that $1 million. That $1 million that a person has in their portfolio, we're going to multiply by the rule of thumb of 4%. So 4% times a million equals $40,000 a year. That's right. So $40,000 a year because it was in a retirement account like your 401k or an IRA, it has not been taxed yet. So this money is now going to be taxed at ordinary income tax rates. That's right. The government wants its money. Okay, so they're going to take it when you retire. So let's look at the taxes on this $40,000. Let's hypothetically say you're going to pay 20% in federal taxes and 5% in state taxes if you live in a state that has state taxes. So if we take that 40,000 now and we multiply it by 25%, that means now we're going to pull off $10,000. So that leaves you with 30,000 left to live on. Now, if you are taking money out of a portfolio and it's only that 30,000, every year that $30,000 is going to lose its buying power by 3% due to inflation. And inflation is the cost of buying things. So for instance, when you were a kid, you probably paid, 25 cents for a Coca-Cola or a beverage. Today, it may be more like $1.25. When I was a kid, a slice of pizza was 50 cents. I think today it's like more like $5. So that's what inflation is, the cost. How much did it cost or how much will it cost to do something? So if you want to keep up with inflation, every year you're going to have to take out 3% more. Okay. Now, if we include the average annual Social Security benefit, now the Social Security benefit is the amount that you get. The average annual amount that Americans are getting right now is $18,000. Now, these numbers don't come out of my head. They come from the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. Now, that brings this fictitious person that has that $30,000 plus this $18,000, that brings them up to $48,000. And $48,000 is okay if you can live comfortably off that in your fantastical life. The problem is, what happens if the market is down during the first 3 years of your retirement? What are you going to do? Are you going to be pulling money out of your retirement account when the market's down? And that is going to grossly erode away at your retirement principal. And a lot of people, if they have money left over, they want to make sure that they're leaving something behind for their loved ones. All right, now let's look at an example of a portfolio that has $500,000 in it. And instead of taking 4% off, we're going to take 2% off because this person wants to have money set aside for their loved ones. So now let's take a look. Let's look at the portfolio that's on the far right. Option 3. That portfolio is 70% in the S&P 500 and 30% in bonds. And bonds is what people usually think is something that is safe. The middle, option 2, is an allocation that has somewhere between 70 to 85% in bonds and 15 to 30% in stocks. And then the portfolio, option 1, all the way on the left, that's a portfolio, a combination of different money managers. Now, on the far, far left, we're looking at the annual withdrawals, and we're looking at a 20-year period. So we're going to look at the year from 2000 to the year 2020. And what you're going to notice is we're going to take $25,000 out of that portfolio every year. And that $25,000 has to grow by 2% every year to keep up with buying power. And what you'll notice at the bottom of that is that $644,000 is taken out over a 20-year period. $500,000 was in, 600,000 was taken out. Now, on option 3, because during the first 3 years of retirement, this person hit the downturn. In the year 2000, 2001, 2002, the market was down. So they ended up doing what we call reverse dollar cost averaging. Now, if we go all the way down, what they have left over at the end of a 20-year period is only $238,000. The person in the middle that had a more conservative portfolio, they have a little bit less, $221,000, right? Now, what if the person that has these portfolios, what if they keep living, right? How much longer can they live at this pace before they run out of money? Now, let's look at the portfolio on the left. This portfolio, they were able to maintain what they had in principle and get some growth, and they have enough to live on if they outlive their money or if they want to be able to leave something behind for their loved ones or if they live too long. Let me hit you with some real facts. Okay. We're talking about, I talked about $1 million portfolio, a $500,000 portfolio. But the facts are most people who are pre-retired between the ages of 60 and 64 have less than $250,000 saved. And the number is closer to $220. 200, excuse me, $220,000. Most people don't have enough to keep up with their standard of living. Now, when we come back after the break, I'm going to tell you how reverse mortgages can be utilized to save or enhance your retirement when we come back on Emma Knows Money. And we're back on Emma Knows Money. We're talking about reverse mortgages today. Reverse mortgages in the past had gotten a lot of bad press. But because of the savings rate of most people in the United States, we have undersaved, right? So we're looking at reverse mortgages today because I want to help dispel the myth. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Some reverse mortgages suck and some don't. And I'm really not here to pick one for you. This is something that you're going to have to look into. You're going to have to find somebody that you trust who you can consult with to help you go through that fine, tiny print that we don't like to read. And it's like all these pages, like 30 pages of stuff. And we just end up signing stuff. And then we get into a situation that we don't want to be in. But you have to go through the contracts, even though it's going to make your eyes cross, get a good pair of readers. But I'm pretty sure you know someone at church who can help you go through the contract and tell you the truth. I'm sure you know someone who's part of the Divine Nine that may be able to help you go through some of these contracts. Now, reverse mortgages can be used as a financial planning tool. They can help utilize the equity that you have in your home during retirement and possibly bridge a gap, say the market's down. As a financial planner, our job is to help our clients and retirees solve the 4 L's: lifestyle, longevity, legacy, and liquidity. And with the lifestyle piece, we have two different types of lifestyle in retirement: our active years and then our less active years. Well, housing wealth can be used as a Social Security maximization tool. That's right. It can be used to help bridge a gap between, say, when you're age 63, if you lose your job unexpectedly, and age 70 when your Social Security is maxed out. Or it can be used during a time when you need full-time nursing care. You may be able to use those dollars to take care of, you being in an assisted living facility. It can also be used to help reduce the strain on your investments during less than favorable market conditions, which is fancy speak for the market is down. So let's go back and look at that example again of the $500,000. Looking at this slide, let's go back to option 3. Now, in option 3, we look at the rates of return. And during those first years of retirement, they end up, again, reverse dollar cost averaging. They end up brutally kicking their retirement dollars in the pants by the year 4 of, in 2003. Now, imagine if they did not have to pull those dollars out and they were able to get that from someplace else and just left their portfolio alone until it came back and rebounded from the market downturn. That is what essentially we are trying to do with the reverse mortgages. Just provide a little bit. It can't be your retirement plan. If a reverse mortgage is your retirement plan, you're in big trouble. Okay, that means you're not having Social Security coming in or anything like that. Now, how do you approach the subject of a reverse mortgage with your family members when reverse mortgages have such a bad rap? How do you even reconcile a reverse mortgage with yourself? Reverse mortgage, that means to me, I would think, oh my gosh, you think I'm destitute. I don't want to do it. But we're going to have to let go of those myths and we're going to have to let go of some obstacles. A few shows ago, I did a show on financial infidelity. And the thing is, you have to be honest with your loved one. If you're living with someone and you're about to retire, you have to come clean financially. Now, reverse mortgages are complicated. Buying a house is complicated. And just like buying a house, there's good mortgages out there and there's bad mortgages out there. Well, with reverse mortgages, you're really going to have to do your homework. And you can even ask some of the free government agencies that are out there for some guidance, right? So you're going to want to tap into all the college educated people that you know that are in your community. I promise you, they'll be able to help you with the contracts. People who have their educations want to give back to the community. I promise you, we want to help. Okay. We are tired of seeing people's, their number one asset, which is usually their home, being taken away from them by banks. So we definitely want to help out with that. If you're considering a reverse mortgage for yourself or for a family member, here's some things that you should do. Number one, I would write out in plain English what's going to happen so that there's no family miscommunication. So, for example, if you're going to borrow money or you need money for your retirement and you ask your kids or your family members and they can't help you, well, you go ahead and talk about doing a reverse mortgage. But they need to know that if you outlive the money that's in the house, the bank is going to take the house at the end. Or if you don't outlive all of the money in the house that's left for you, your family members may have to buy the house back from the bank again, right? Or the bank may give them the difference between what's owed and the equity that's in it. Reverse mortgages do have costs and fees associated with them. So make sure that you ask all the questions. So when you're dealing with someone in an environment or in an industry you're not familiar with, say to them, is there any question I should ask you that people usually call you about down the road, angry with you about something? That's the information that I want from you right now. Okay. And that question right there will save you a lot of money. Now, it is muy importante that you look into reverse mortgages before you're desperate. Let me say that again. Don't wait until you're destitute. The mortgage company is less likely to lend you money if they can't be sure that you can maintain all of your bills, like your taxes for the house, the insurance for the house, and the maintenance off the house. So don't wait until things get really bad to start looking into reverse mortgages. The other thing you need to do is loosen the stigma of living off debt. We've been taught as Americans, when we get into retirement, we shouldn't have a lot of debt. We shouldn't have any debt. However, life has happened for a lot of people. A lot of people weren't able to save for retirement because they were saving for their kids' education. They weren't able to save for retirement because they weren't earning enough. They weren't able to save for retirement for name the reason, right? So why not tap into the asset while you're still alive? Now, check with your financial team. Okay. I'm personally not sure if you can get a reverse mortgage, say, if you still owe the federal government money. So if you have a federal student loan debt, you may not be able to get a reverse mortgage. So make sure you check in with people, let them know the federal debts that you have. Now, as everything that we discuss on my show, please speak with your financial advisors, your trusted team of financial professionals, your certified financial planner, your CPA, and a lawyer if need be, to explain the contracts to you so that you and your family have a full understanding of exactly what you're going to be getting into and what will happen when you're no longer on this planet with us. Now, I want to thank you for joining me today on Emma Knows Money. You can follow me on social media at Emma Knows Money on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Emma Knows Money. Please subscribe, tell your friends about it. But I will see you next time right here.
Benjamin's Assets.